Hey, what's up, everyone? This is Gary A. Swaby, and you're now listening to the Powercast, and we will be recapping Power Book 2 Ghost Episode 9, and this episode was titled Monster. And I'm here with Mr. Richard Bailey Jr. How you doing, Rich?
Doing good, Gary. What's up, listeners and viewers?
Yep, you had a good Christmas?
Yeah. Well, I would say it was. Yeah, I would say it was a good holidays. Just taking time to reflect. Made sure to contact family. But yeah, it's good. Laid back considering how bad the year has been.
Cool, cool. Sounds about right. And how are you, Dana?
I'm fine.
Good, good. You had a good Christmas? Or happy holiday?
Existed. It existed.
Okay, okay, fair enough. And yeah, so we hope that all of you listeners had, happy holidays as well, or a happy Christmas if you celebrate. But yeah, we are back. We know it's been a rough year, but it was cool to just like let loose for at least, like a couple days and just forget about work and the pressures of life, I guess. But
Hmm.
there's still a lot going on in the world, so that all of that is kind of weighing in the back of our minds still. But hey, we just gotta do the best we can. And what the holidays teach us is that we're all supposed to have some sort of family or support system. So this is definitely the time to connect with people and make sure you check on everyone. So this is the time for that bonding. So that's my words of wisdom for the week for the people. So yeah, I'm taking over from Rich because that's supposed to be Rich's job, but
No, that's good. Good words of wisdom. I would say.
yeah. But yeah, let's get right into this recap because this was an explosive episode of Power, and I know that there's a whole lot to talk about. So let's start with one of the more minor characters, especially in this episode, but that was Braden. So in this episode, obviously Braden comes back to his dorm room, which he shares with Tariq, and he comes to pick up some things basically, and Tariq is there, so they have a discussion, and Braden is still kind of mad about what happened last week, and Tariq actually tells him that Kane was to blame for the murder that happened at the school and everything. And Braden gets kind of upset that Tariq didn't, tell him and kept him in the dark. But Tariq also shows him that he has like a new shipment of drugs that he has to move, right? So Braden he wants Braden to help him, but Braden's not exactly with it, and obviously with the investigation going on, it's a little too risky to try and move it on campus. So Braden comes up with the suggestion that he should just sell it to Effie because Effie can sell it for double the price where she stays. So later on in the episode, they visit Effie, and Tariq actually finally tells Braden the truth about Riley, and he even shows a picture of Cooper Sachs, and Braden actually remembers seeing a picture of Sachs at Riley's house or whatever. So that kind of proves that there's a connection, I guess. So I want to ask you guys: do you think Brayden will confront Riley in the future, and how might that conversation go if it happens? So how about you, Rich? What do you think?
Yeah, I think he will 100% confront her in the future about this. We know the preview for next week. They definitely have another interaction. So in terms of what they discuss, probably still trying to figure out what she was doing with Tariq, and trying to get some more answers in regards to that. So I think that they definitely are going to have some type of confrontation.
Cool, yeah, because I mean Tariq did tell him that he lied about them, about her trying to sleep with him, but he told her that basically she slipped him a drink or whatever, like a spiked drink. So and that she's probably been feeding information to Cooper Sachs and everything. So I'm
Hmm.
wondering how how Braden is gonna approach that conversation, because I don't know. Like, do you think like he has more loyalty to Tariq than to Riley? Because it seems like he suddenly really cares about Riley. So like, do you think there's any chance that she could kind of like I guess persuade him to kind of like get with her and forget about Tariq? Like, do you feel like there's any possibility of it going like that?
Well, that's going to be a very interesting dynamic to try and figure out, because I think they want you going into that to the next episode believe that it can go either way.
Mm.
Obviously, you see he still has a lot of loyalty to Tariq in this episode, but Riley was not in the picture in this episode. So when she does return, you're definitely going to ask the question about whether or not he's going to really want to try and repair things with her and get on her side. He even still did defend her when they had his argument with Tariq. So it's going to be interesting to see which way that goes. But I do think that now that he knows that Sax is somebody who is obviously someone you need to be careful with, he has to be very careful about how he approaches that relationship now. But it's hard to tell, because again, we just have to see how they plan it, because it can go in any direction really. But I think for right now, he's probably going to just talk to her to get some more information. I don't know if he's probably still going to grill her and ask her, why did you drug Tariq, and what happened as a result of that. He's probably definitely going to ask that question, but beyond that, we'll have to see how far he takes things.
Right. So Dana, what do you think about Brayden, and how do you think him confronting Riley is gonna turn out?
Back in my day, we used to have a saying that we can't say anymore. But I do feel that Braden is eventually going to kind of mend the relationship that he has with Tariq. He knows that he has to be wary around Riley, and no one should be in that kind of relationship anyway. I, again, don't see this lasting. In a fantasy world, I would appreciate if Braden just killed Riley so we don't have to see her again. She's just very annoying. But, it's a bit extreme. So hopefully he can get her kicked off campus. She doesn't even go to school there. And he has power through his parents, who basically own the school or is very huge contributors. So he can get rid of her to no longer be on the campus. So I do eventually see them breaking up. I do think that this will help to repair the bond that he has with Tariq, or the one-sided bond that he has with Tariq, and that they will be friends again, probably by season 2, or somewhere within season 2. I do look forward to that, but I just can't see this Riley situation being long term.
Well, this episode started off with Kane throwing body parts in a container, so nothing is too extreme. Riley can end up, getting murdered by Braden or something. Like, it could be a complete recreation of Tommy and what's her name? The one that he murdered. So, Holly. There you go. Yeah. So who knows? But yeah, I guess there's not too much more to say about that. I just wanted to bring it up because I know we mentioned this last week. So, I wanted to bring that up again since Tariq did confess everything.
Mm-hmm.
So let's move on to Tasha real quick. So, because Two-Bit, is asking Tariq for more money, Tariq ends up calling Davis McLean to see if he can delay the payment, right? But Davis says it's okay, but he'll have to cancel his star witness, that he was going to have. And he was basically just saying that to get Tariq to pay him because, he knows that having a star witness is important, right? So Tariq, takes the bait and says, all right, if you have a star witness that can help my mom, then go ahead with it and I'll pay you. So then, later on we see Method Man and Paula visit Tasha in prison, and this is after Tasha already spoke to Tariq, and Tariq told her about this special witness that Davis McLean mentioned. So Tasha proceeds to ask about the witness and who it is, and Davis McLean doesn't say anything basically. So later on, Tasha actually calls in Paula alone to visit her, and she asks who the witness is, and Paula actually tells her that it's Epiphany, the stripper. So Tasha tells Paula, because she's obviously worried about what Epiphany might know, and how much she knows, because she knows that she kind of put Tariq in touch with her, earlier this season, right? So Tasha sends a message to Paula to basically pass on to Tariq, and she says to ask Tariq if Epiphany ever met Kanan. She doesn't say Kanan, she says Slim, but we all know that that's the nickname for Kanan. And then she says to tell Tariq to treat Epiphany just like Kanan, meaning she wants him to kill Epiphany. So yeah, so I wanted to ask you guys, just based on this, on Tasha's actions, what exactly, what do you think of Tasha, after her asking her son that she's trying to protect to kill again? What does this say about Tasha to you guys, and how do you feel about it? So I'll start with you first, Dana. What do you think? And you're muted. Okay, she might not
Sorry,
be there.
the whole thing. I can't. My mute thing just don't. Anyway, I do feel that um, it's really weird how she is trying to get her son kind of being to have clean hands in a way, and to not really be involved, and she really wants to take whatever that's going on and reflect it on herself so that she protects her son. But then she asks something of him that's so drastic, and if caught can go so wrong and put him behind jail. So I just found that to be hilarious, and in a way it kind of maybe shows, I don't want to say a desperation, but it seems like it's a cross between desperation and a bit of selfishness to go out of the way to ask that. I was just wondering, overall, does she not have any other connections out on the street who could, help do things for her, especially something as extreme as murder? So it kind of threw me, very much so. But then remember how we was talking different before about the divide that might happen between Tariq and and his mother,
Hmm.
and how there will might come a time where you have to think about yourself. Remember the conversation that she had at the end of the previous episodes? So I was wondering if they was trying to play upon that, and if so, that would have been a very interesting way to go about Tasha finding her own path, and also being that bit selfishness by bringing Tariq into it, because it's a really interesting dynamic where she says stay away but still help me. I don't know what they're trying to do at that point. I didn't know what they was trying to do.
Yeah. Wait, say that last part again. Which scene do you mean? What are you talking about?
Well, remember when she remember there was the scene where she was talking to the other prisoner,
Hmm.
and she was saying, not the other prisoner, it was one of the lawyers, I think, when they was saying, you're gonna have to start doing things yourself.
Right.
Maybe you should start, testify or turn something in and start thinking about yourself because you're gonna be stuck in prison. And remember we had the conversation where it's like, will we see Tasha and Tariq kind of go their own separate way?
Oh, okay.
Remember how
Yeah,
he
that
was calling
was
her less and less?
Yeah.
So
yeah
I was
that
kind
that.
of wondering. No, sorry.
Oh no. I was just saying, yeah, that was the conversation with Paz.
Yeah. So I was just wondering, within that one scene is that it seemed kind of weird because if she's trying to take the blame for everything and then to ask something as drastic as killing from Tariq, who she wanted to keep separate from what's going on, I didn't know where the lines were at. It seemed kind of blurry still, where she was still holding on to Tariq, and I didn't know what was going on in that situation, what her motives was going to be.
Okay. Well, yeah, I do have a follow up question about that in a sec, but I'm gonna hand over to Rich real quick. So Rich, what did you think of Tasha asking Tariq to kill again?
Yeah, so it's a very complicated relationship. We know that when this all started out, Tasha was telling Tariq to just go to school, not worry about her. But it's very interesting that there was a conversation that she had in this particular episode with McLean and Paula, and basically mentioned that right, and this happened right at the end of their conversation with McLean when McLean was about to leave. She said, well, remember that there are still two kids that I have to take care of out here. So they want to remind you that yes, Tasha definitely cares about Yaz. She cares about Tariq. But just to go to Dana's point, yes, she is also thinking about herself, because obviously, if you take Epiphany out of the picture, it would eliminate the fact that Tariq would even come up in the conversation, but it also just completely ends all mention of the business that Epiphany did with Tasha, because she dealt with her directly, uh, selling the drugs, etc. So it definitely was a selfish act to tell him to do that. But then I also find it interesting how later on, when she talks to Tariq again, she asked him, "What did you do?" And he refuses to tell her exactly what he did.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, because you have to be, cautious about that. Because I believe that there was a conversation they were having over the phone, and
Yeah.
that would have been a recorded conversation.
Yeah.
So you can't really reveal that information over that phone. She didn't have the burner anymore at that point. So,
Yeah.
it's very interesting dynamic. But again, we're going to see where this all leads next week. Now that Tariq is going to have to be the one to take the stand, which is something that they had already alluded to at the beginning of the season, where Tariq was ready to take the stand. But now Tariq has gone through a lot of situations on his own. So it's going to be very interesting to see how he deals with that. But he knows everything now, so it's going to be, yeah. We'll see. We'll see what happens next.
Yeah.
See,
So
piggyback, can I? See, when you said the part where how it was a recorded thing, and she kept saying, "Did you do your homework? Did you do your homework?" Um, I kind of wondered at that point, was she trying to set him up?
Mm,
Because she wanted him to say, it wasn't like a code word. It wasn't like, I did my math today and I worked on my subtractions.
yep.
He didn't say that, and I think for some reason, because we saw him respond and yeah, I'm doing homework and all that other mess. He didn't respond. So I wonder, in a weird way, did he know that she was trying to, if she was trying to set him up by constantly asking the answer for if you did your homework? Or I wonder if by not answering, it was a power struggle. You know what I mean? To say, I have the answer, but I choose not to tell you because right now it's, I'm in control. The Tariq was growing into his own.
yeah, there's many perspectives you can take from that conversation, because it definitely was pretty deep. Like there was more to it. There was a lot of nuance in that phone call. And that brings me to the next question I wanted to ask. But let me answer what Dana just said, and what I think first of all, and then I'll ask you to. So I think in that conversation, she said, the word. She asked if he did homework. I think that was her way of trying to talk in code on the phone. So that's why she said homework and everything. But Tariq's lack of a proper answer, I think Tariq sort of resents that she asked him to do that task.
Mm-hmm.
I think he kind of resents her for that a little bit, and he might be feeling a certain way about it. that she asked him to do that. So I wanted to ask you guys: do you think Tariq resents Tasha for asking him to do such a thing like that, despite what he's already been through, and and everything that's kind of led up to the case and everything? Do you think he kind of resents her for that? So, go ahead, Dana. Since you were just talking, we were just talking about this. What do you think about that? What I just said.
Um, I think it was very selfish. He could be very angry about it because, in a weird way, if you go back to the first Ghost,
Mm-hmm.
they kind of planned together. Remember, they kept talking about killing Ghost,
Yeah.
and he's like, "I'll do it, Ma," and it was like that back and forth. So I feel that he already killed for her once, and he is not. I don't view him yet as someone who's like a solidified ghost where he can just kill and call it a day. He's not that. He's not Kane in that way.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I do feel, and then also remember every time, like, not to get ahead, but every time that he made kind of stupid choices, it came back at him, and someone else kind of lost their life because of it. If you look at Raina and the whole situation, I feel that in a way he does resent her. I feel that he is not ready to be a killer, and we still don't know if that is something that he wants to do. Remember, we had the conversation, or he has these two paths to take. He can either be the clean cut person eventually, or he could be that killer, which is goes back to why I love that they titled this monster. Um, I think that I don't think it's resentment. Resentment is strong, but I do feel that he is very angry. That is the fact that he killed his father, and you could argue he killed it for Tasha. And at the same time, he's still dealing with that grief of one, being a killer, and two, losing his father. Because at the end of the day, that was their father. As weird as a bond that they had, that was his father. And also the fact that he's trying to process everything that he's done. It's not just the fact that I killed a father, it's the fact that I am now a killer. I am going down the path that my own father is going down. And him trying to decide if that's the path that he wants to while being caught up in the midst of everything. And for Tasha to come and say, "Will you come and kill again?" That kind of negates his feelings. He never had the opportunity to even say no. So I
Yeah.
feel that he's very angry at this point. And going back with the whole not answering the homework question, that's why he didn't answer.
Okay. Yeah. You made some good points. So, Rich, same question to you. Do you feel like Tariq resents the fact that his mother asked him to do that?
Uh, I think there's definitely could be some. Well, I think his demeanor is again, he doesn't. I mean, he is Ghost, but I think it's part of him that doesn't want to be like Ghost. So he wanted to try to, I guess, finagle another way to handle that situation. I do think though he definitely contemplated doing it though, because I don't want to jump ahead, but when he went to go visit Epiphany, they did a very good job with the tension, making you think that he was going to actually shoot her. And he didn't go through with that. Instead, he just paid her off, paid her to leave, and he had that dialogue with her. When she brought up the fact that she would just leave if she had money. So that I think that was his way of dealing with the situation, as opposed to doing what his mom said. Uh, but again, a very good job with the tension, because we know earlier this season that she had also told him to deal with Tamika, and you saw how that also ended, where his lawyer showed up right before he had a chance to do anything with her that he would have regretted. So I think that goes to show that they really did a good job of making you think that he might do something. And then, of course, the episode is titled Monster, so I was kind of expecting him to do something to transition into a monster, as Effie alluded to in the episode. But that didn't quite happen. So it was good that he pretty much dealt with it that way. Of course, what's going to be interesting now is seeing what is that interaction going to be like when he does reunite with his mom, because she may think, well, this person is gone, but can this person come back and become a threat to us once again? and that is the whole reason why she wanted him to kill her in the first place. So we'll see what happens. But I do agree. Maybe resentment is too strong a word. I think he definitely had some struggles with that. But they have definitely put a lot on Tariq. You know, both Tasha and Ghost put a lot of pressure on Tariq. So especially with what happened with Ghost getting killed. So I can see how he definitely could resent it. I don't think he did the best job showing how much he resented it, though. It's just that he was trying to think about what is the best way to deal with this situation so that I'm not completely like my dad, even though I still have a lot of the same traits that he has, if you get what I'm saying.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, great points all around. I guess, there's more to say about Tariq a little later on, because we will be getting back to that character. But yeah, I'm definitely not happy with Tasha at all. I haven't I haven't liked her since season 6 of Power, because I feel like she just she's in a place where she's just making some really bad decisions, and she's just as evil as Ghost, like the original Ghost was. So if anything, she's like the real monster here, in my opinion. But
well, that's like Ghost bopped her in the head. Remember that one by the refrigerator?
Huh? So,
yeah, I do remember that.
That's why Ghost bopped her in the head.
Oh yeah. Of course, yeah. And let me just say, I don't condone that behavior, but yeah, she brings this stuff on herself.
I also don't condone the abusive behavior, but I will say that this is a character where obviously we can agree that we don't like how she has done things and that she is a bad mother, etc. But I feel like a lot of this comes from having to deal with so much with Ghost, all of the drama with Ghost. You can only imagine. I mean, this show shows bits and pieces. It shows enough of their relationship where you will know that Ghost did her wrong on many occasions, and now she just wants to get out of this situation. And obviously, she wants to get out of the situation and make sure she can also get out and also protect her kids. But I think what she is going to start to learn is that in order for her to get out of the situation, somebody's going to still have to go down, regardless. So that's where it's going to be a test.
Or you could argue that Tasha represents all women who wrap themselves up in men and forget about their children until it's too late.
Yeah, you can say that too, for sure.
But I don't see a lot of like women killers out there like that. Like I don't know, but yeah. One thing I do want to say about Tasha though is I think she really went down the wrong path, because I feel like she should have been a detective or something, because she is the queen of like pulling all of the answers out of thin air, because she had like in season 6 of Power, she somehow knew exactly where Ghost put the body of Silver, right? Like she got that out of thin air, and then in this episode, she just knows that McLean and Paula are sleeping with each other. And I don't know if I missed something, or if like there was a part where she saw them interacting or something. But let me know, Rich. Like how did she figure that out?
So let me just say this, because I don't know if you're going to have anything that you say in this episode, a section for Paula or McLean, so I won't say too much, but I will just say this. I 100% believe that whole storyline with Paula and McLean sleeping together, I knew that was going to at some point come into play with what was going on in the overall storyline, because you saw that clearly, McLean wasn't trying to separate from his wife. She probably saw, she probably just sensed it as someone that has sensed when her husband was cheating. She probably was able to sense that, yes, Paula has some interaction with him. And then again, if you just want to look at the body language that they displayed around her, and the fact that when Paula and McLean came to the jail earlier in the episode, and where Paula started to tell Tasha some information, McLean had to stop her and say, "No, hold on, no, don't say that." Like she was basically protecting him and had his back. So maybe she interpreted that as, well, there's clearly more between these two. They probably are sleeping together, and she probably definitely saw that McLean had his wedding ring on, so she knows that he's basically having an affair. That's the only thing I can imagine where she came from by looking at the body language and how they was talking and interacting with each other in her presence. But aside from that, there's no other way she would know. But as someone who saw her husband and interacted with her husband, knowing that he was cheating, that's probably how she picked up on those signs.
Okay, so I'll ask you too, Dana. So like, is this like a special power that women have where they can just like pick up on on when two people are sleeping together? Is that like is what Rich said correct?
It's actually very true. It's a weird intuition that happens. I mean, it we could see it. We know it. Even if you just dream about it, we know.
Okay, cool.
But can we all agree that we definitely knew that whole thing with him cheating on his wife was going to somehow play into what was going to happen in this storyline?
Oh yeah, they had to pull that card at some point.
I just await for them to pull the other card with the teacher and the student. I'm kind of upset that didn't come to light yet.
Oh, we got something to say about that later though. but but yeah, that was our discussion about Tasha, I guess. There might be some more to say about her later, but yeah, I'm guessing that and this is just like, you know, my prediction, but something major is gonna happen to Tasha in the next episode, I believe. So you know,
that doesn't sound like it's a positive news for people who like Tasha, Gary.
Wait, people like Tasha? No,
I don't know.
I used to really like the character in like the first, you know, couple seasons, but she took a turn for the worse, and like for me her character became irredeemable. And I wanted her to go a different path as well, especially around the time she got with Silver. But yeah, she kind of like, you know, got stuck in the same you know, the same habit as always. So that's my thing with Tasha. And she, you know, she deliberately puts her children at risk as well. So
yeah.
So that's my thing with her. But yeah, we will be talking about Tasha again in the future, so we'll revisit all of this. But let's move on to, you know, one of the characters that Dana just mentioned, which is Carrie. So you know, her story in this episode starts with her waking up next to Zeke. And you know, she sees all the bruises on his body and on his back and everything. So you know, she asks him how he got those bruises, and you know, Zeke kind of opens up a little reluctantly, and he also hides some details from her as he's opening up. But he basically tells her that, you know, after his celebration, you know, from the basketball game and everything, they got into a fight, or a gang beat them up and everything, and he mentions that it was the GTG gang. So that's what he tells Carrie. And then, you know, later on, Carrie is at the school, and some of the professors have been summoned by the detective. And you know, we all know that actor from other shows. You know, yeah. The detective. I can't remember.
Boys.
The Boys, exactly. Yeah.
The actor's name is Alonzo.
Alonzo. Okay. Do you remember his character name in this? I don't remember.
I could have swore, I could have swore it was Rico, but I can't think of the name right now. Yeah, I know. Mostly when we do these shows, I know every character's name, but unfortunately, I don't remember this character. I know that Janie Ray mentioned in the comments last week who the character's name is, so I'll check that out. But continue talking, and I'll try to find that information.
Okay, no problem, man. But yeah, because I don't even think they mentioned his name in the episode, but.
Oh no! They definitely did mention his name in the episode.
Oh, okay.
I just wasn't really paying that much attention to that particular part. I just was listening to what he was saying, more so about what his actual name was.
Santana.
Sam?
Say what?
Sam Santana.
Sam
Sam
Santana.
Santana.
Is he related to Jewels?
Ha, ha, ha.
Okay. So yeah. So Sam Santana is the investigator, and he's investigating the murder, of the boy in the pool from last week. So he basically summons the professors to talk about the death, and he makes it clear that it was a murder, and it wasn't an accident. So he shows them pictures of the gang tattoo on the victim, and Carrie makes the connection to what Zeke said, about the GTG gang. Um, so then the investigator says that he wants to basically interrogate all of the students that are of like a urban background, I guess. And the professors object to that because it's basically racial profiling. And
Mm-hmm.
they make the suggestion that they should speak to the students first in confidence, and then they might be able to get a lead from that. So they all agree that that's the direction they want to take, and Carrie takes it upon herself to do her private investigating, and she finds a picture of Zeke with the Tejada family, and she does some googling to find out about them, and she realizes that Lorenzo Tejada, who is in prison, did business with the GTG gang. And as she's looking this up, Jabari storms in and he finds the picture. He recognizes Drew from when he followed Tariq, and Tariq met with Drew. So he obviously makes that connection in his mind, but he doesn't let on that he knows this, that he knows who it is, and he kind of acts oblivious, like he doesn't know what he's looking at. So yeah, and they have obviously they have tension, Jabari and Carrie. So he ends up leaving after that. And then let me see here. Yeah, so then Zeke is speaking with his auntie Monet. He goes to visit them in Queens, I guess. And then he makes it clear that this murder is putting pressure on him, and that if they find out he's mixed up, or if they find out his family is mixed up in this, then it could lead to his basketball career being cut off, or whatever. It could seriously threaten his career. So he's basically alluding to the fact that he kind of wants to say something to take the blame off of him, to take the weight off him. And Monet tells him not to say anything. But as Zeke is kind of talking, he's mentioning Carrie a lot and saying that she has nothing to do with it, and stuff like that. So he's clearly trying to protect her, and Monet picks up on this, and realizes, I guess it's that woman intuition again, and she figures out that that something is going on there. So Monet shows up in Carrie's office and kind of intimidates her, and she basically says, like, if anything comes out about her and her family, then she's gonna let everyone know what's going on between her and Zeke. So that leads me to the questions I have. So first of all, what do you think of all of these events, and what do you think Carrie's next move will be? So, like, will she give up all of this information that she has now to the investigation, or anything like that, or will she keep her mouth shut and continue maybe seeing Zeke on the low? How do you think she's going to act moving forward? So I'll go to you first, Rich. What do you think?
Well, first and foremost, I don't believe that this situation will end well. As it was, as we know, Carrie has also been doing prosecuting work in the past. I'm pretty sure Zeke does not know this. Otherwise, he probably wouldn't have said anything to her at all, because she said that, they had that whole conversation. She said, "Oh, well, don't worry, you can tell me anything, and because I care about you and I look out for your best interests." And then you see later in this episode, when they are confronted by Sam, this is when obviously Jabari doesn't say anything because he's withholding information, because he still has an issue with Carrie, and he feels as though he still believes that she's messing around with Tariq. So obviously he didn't want to say anything. So if something does happen to her, or she gets caught with Tariq, then it's on her. But at the end of the day, it's like he doesn't say anything, and then when they go to her, she makes mention of the gang, and then immediately it cuts off. So you don't know what all she told Sam. But the thing is that it's a bad situation now because I'm going to assume she revealed a lot of information in that conversation. Maybe didn't go so far as to reveal the names because they had already said that they can talk to them anonymously. But just the fact that she revealed all that, revealed any information about the gang itself, it's a bad situation about to come down. And of course, as we saw later in this episode, you made the mention about Monet having the intuition that Zeke was sleeping around with her. I'm very glad that they alluded to the fact that Diana had found that card in Tariq's bag that had the comment about a teacher sleeping with a student, because that gave context right there. Because I was wondering how was she going to get her confirmation of this, and then now it makes sense why in the earlier episodes Diana found that card and she said, "Hey, Mom, I think this is information you need to know." So that definitely helped her to put two and two together even further. And of course, she confronted him at the end. She confronted Carrie towards the end of the episode, which I was expecting that to happen in the next episode. So that happened kind of fast. But it's a situation now where Carrie had already spoken to Sam prior to her having that meeting with Monet. So I don't know what she said in that conversation with Sam, but whatever she said, it's not a good situation. And now I think that the next episode, there's going to possibly be a falling out with some of those characters because it doesn't feel like it's heading in a good path now that all this stuff is out there. And yes, what Kane did, that brought a lot of attention to the school. So somebody's going to have to pay for that. So it's just not going to be good, whatever happens next. But again, I think not only will her career be lost from messing around with Zeke, but I feel like now that she's crossed Monet, I would not be surprised if that character is eventually killed if they find out that she revealed too much information. So we have to see how that goes down.
Damn. Well, let's hope not, because, I was just starting to like her, so... So yeah, let's hope not. But yeah, Rich, man, you got a great memory because the fact you remembered Diana found that card and everything. Yeah, that's true.
Because I'm gonna tell you, if they didn't bring that up, I would have criticized. How did Monet know exactly everything about what's going on with these two? It had to be more than just her having the intuition that something was going on because she saw how they were interacting together. So I'm glad they added that in there because I was wondering how that was going to play into and why it was important that Diana saw that. So that's a very good job for those that actually watch the show every episode, for you to go back to this is what happened before and now we're going to give you an answer as to why that happened and how it's going to be used. So yeah, that was a good job throwing that in there.
Indeed. So Dana, what do you think of the events with Carrie in this episode, and what is she going to do with all this information, or is she going to take what Monet said seriously? How do you think it's going to play out?
Carrie is officially the Angela of the show.
Wait, I'm the Angela? Really? That's a good thing.
Wait, that's good?
Okay, maybe not.
It's good. He's happy. I feel that I don't see her keeping all of this inside. I see her eventually, start talking. And this is and the more that she talks and the more that Zeke talks to her, she's going to start putting two and two together. And I think it would be an interesting dynamic to see her kind of work against Zeke. I think she'll end up doing it from what she will perceive to be his best interest, in the sense of you can't live life this way, that kind of thing. And eventually they might have to kill her because she knows way too much. So this is where I'm drawing my Angela conclusion from. But I do see that this being information that she is going to keep storing, and she's going to eventually start telling. Remember that whole anonymous thing? So maybe she's going to be the one who divulges all of that, no, anonymously. And then again, we don't know how anonymous is anonymous. That's another thing. So, and then on top of that, you have Jabari, who's all still jealous and looking around the corner, trying to find out who's sleeping with Carrie. So this is going to just be one of those messy situations, and it might just get her killed, which will be exciting for the show.
Hey, can I just make a quick comment, Gary? I just want to
Mm.
say, I find it very hilarious how they had that whole scene where Jabari comes into her office, sees the picture of Zeke, and doesn't think anything about maybe this is who she's sleeping around with, because they had that whole thing where he visited her when Zeke was over there and saw that basketball was on TV in the background. So you can't put two and two together and be like, hey, maybe that's who she's messing around with. So I find it very funny how the character is so obsessed with Tariq that he still thinks Tariq is the one that's messing around with Carrie when it's really Zeke.
See, this kind of makes me wonder if he has, because this, like, the obsession that he has is blinding, or is it some kind of vendetta that he knows about Ghost or something, and that's why he's so obsessed with Tariq and trying to bring him down, because it's to the point where it's like, it's getting a wee bit ridiculous with this obsession.
Yeah.
There's something under that's driving him aside from you're banging Carrie.
Yeah, I feel like there might be more to Jabari's character, like, and I feel like maybe he's had like bad experiences in the past with, people from the streets or something like that, and maybe he's projecting those feelings onto, Tariq, because he knows his history and everything, and his father, his father's history, I guess. So
Well,
maybe, yeah, go ahead.
well, it's that, and also, he's thinking about his book deal and the fact that they keep asking him, well, how does the
Yeah.
story end with the kid? So he wants to see how this is going to play out, so he can use this material for his own personal gain to get his new book off the ground.
Yeah, that too. That's
But it seems
I
like
think
he's
it's
trying to push a narrative instead of just letting it happen naturally.
That's true too. Yep. Hmm.
yeah. I think it's like a mix of things with him. Like, yeah, it's the book thing as well, because he's using Tariq's material, so that shows there is some kind of weird obsession with Tariq as well, beyond just the Carrie thing. But and then there's also the Carrie thing where he thinks she's sleeping with Tariq, and then and yeah, I also just feel like it's something deep rooted within him, like I was saying before, that's making him act this way as well. So yeah, I think they could really play this off well with Jabari's character. So I hope they do something real creative to show us why he's kind of been acting this way. So yeah, I guess we gotta wait and see. And my next question was actually going to be, what do you think Jabari is going to do now? So we've already kind of touched on it a little, but do you have anything specific that you think he might do next in the next episode? So go ahead, Rich.
That's a good question. I would assume still trying to find out the truth. Because the next episode is the season finale, I feel like he will discover that Tariq is not the one that's messing around with Carrie, because you have to have some type of major reveals or something happen, because it is a season finale. So I kind of feel like he'll get that answer in the next episode. I want to see if Tariq is going to find out that this guy has been plagiarizing his work, but it appears that Tariq is going to be very preoccupied in the next episode. So I don't know how they're going to fit that into all of this. That might be something you have to wait until next season. But one thing I do want to mention, and I don't want to go too far ahead, is that I know that the whole promo for the next episode, they had that line that no one goes down alone. So I kind of feel like whatever bad happens to somebody, it's going to happen to multiple people in the next episode. So if something bad happens with Carrie as a falling out because of this Tejada situation, something's probably going to happen bad to Jabari as well, because these teachers have not been doing their job in the sense of messing around with the students. Now, it's okay if you want to teach them and all this other stuff, but you should not be sleeping around with your students. And even if they have already graduated, you shouldn't be sleeping around with them either. So I kind of feel like that something is going to happen with that, but it's a question of how it's going to happen because it can go in so many different directions. It's not like a simple cut and dry answer as to what's going to happen next. And that's what I like about the show now because there's a lot of things happening with a lot of different characters. But we'll see. But in terms of what happens with Jabari in the next episode, I assume more of the same of him trying to, find out who is behind this, how Tariq is involved, and I do imagine that eventually he's going to say he's going to find out Tariq is not involved in this. But hey, let's see if he still tries to take down Tariq, even though Tariq is not the one messing around with Carrie, because he knows about course correct also now. We know that from the last episode. So we'll see how he uses all these things to his advantage at the end of the day.
I want this to be a running gag where like Jabari's 100 years old on his deathbed and he's still like, Carrie slept with Tariq. just keep this narrative going. It's hilarious.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, there's this, like I said, man, there's something deep rooted in him that makes him hold on to these things. So I wouldn't be surprised if that happened. But Dana, do you have anything specific like that you think Jabari is going to do in the next episode, or how are they going to conclude his story? Do you think?
Oh, this can go either one of two ways. One, he's dead, which would be simple and easy, or he ends up getting the writing the book, plagiarizing through some way, and they find out because remember there are passages that are completely plagiarized. When he gets called up about that, and it ends his career, and he ends up being miserable and sad and destitute and does something drastic on the show. I need him to do something aside from just running around and being angry at Carrie. I would need that book thing. I want them to, the fact that they showed us that he's a plagiarizer, I need that to come into play for his downfall.
Okay, yeah, like, so what I think might happen in the next episode, because I definitely feel like the plagiarism thing needs to come to a conclusion before this season ends. So I feel like he's gonna have his full finished manuscript, right? And he probably has it printed out in a nice folder, and in his office or something, and maybe he calls Tariq into his office for an unrelated reason. It could be something to do with school, or he could be trying to ask him questions about Carrie or something, right? And and then Jabari is called away from his office because of an emergency or something, and Tariq is left there, and he sees this shiny new folder, and he starts to browse through the folder and see the story and everything, and then he starts to recognize his own work. So I feel like something like that is going to happen where Tariq is going to find out that because Tariq is the only one that's going to know that those are his words. So I feel like he's going to find out, and I don't know how it's going to play out after that, but I feel like he's going to use that as leverage. He's going to try and he's going to basically threaten Jabari and say, I'm going to ruin your career unless you do this for me, so that's what I think might happen. That's my prediction. So,
or Tariq could just set him up like he did the other teacher for drugs.
Yeah.
Because remember, that never came into fruition. The fact that we saw that and he got arrested, that storyline just kind of dropped.
Yeah.
We never really got into that storyline. So maybe that was a way of showing us, what happened before and how it could play out in this show now. Hopefully.
Yeah, I'm thinking like maybe it could be that course correct gets exposed or something, and then if Tariq finds out about Jabari plagiarizing, then he can use that as leverage to have Jabari help him, or support him, or alleviate the blame from Tariq or something like that. So maybe something like that will happen. What was you gonna say, Rich?
The only point that I will add is that if a scenario does happen where they have a confrontation and Jabari has to leave immediately, it's going to be because something happened to Carrie that he hears about. Because
Mm-hmm.
obviously he is very concerned about Carrie. Um, so if Monet gets to her, they take her out or whatever, he definitely would leave immediately to see what's going on with Carrie. Um, and that could be how when you made the comment about a theory of him leaving the office after he brings him into the office, that would be a reason why he would leave.
Oh yeah,
So that's the only point that I was going to add.
yeah, yeah, exactly. Because you guys already, made the prediction that Carrie might end up, passing away or murdered or something, and that hurts my heart a
It,
little. But yeah,
well, I mean, hey, it might not happen yet. I mean, but I feel like something is definitely going to happen with that character, because the thing is, if she is killed after she has already revealed some information, and we don't know what all she revealed to Sam, then they will obviously know, or at least have an idea of. They will look deeper into what she was researching.
mm,
So that wouldn't be a wise move for them to take her out just yet, but something is going to definitely happen. It's only a matter of time.
yeah. And I actually can't wait to see, what happens, how they wrap this up in the next episode. So
Yeah.
so yeah, I guess we'll wait and see. But let's get to Tariq now, because there's a lot of things to talk about regarding him. Some of the things we already mentioned, but there is more to say. So let's get to it. So after being asked to kill Epiphany, Tariq struggles with the weight of that task and everything, and but he shows up to Epiphany's spot. He has the gun on him. His body language kind of tells me that he doesn't really want to do it, but he's willing to do whatever it takes, I guess, to help his mother. So he talks to her a little bit just to put her at ease and make her unaware of what he's doing and everything, and she's packing up toys and stuff like that. So he realizes that because she says that she if she could, she would skip town instead of testifying in court and everything like that. So when she says that, he has a bag of money on him, so he just makes the decision to pay her to leave, and that will make things easier. That solves the problem without him having to kill her. So that's what he does, and then and then later on he meets with Monet, and this is when he already has the money, because the deal with Effie already happened and everything. So he has the money, but he gave some to Epiphany. So while he's meeting with Monet, he tells her that he's a little short on the money because he had to pay for his mother's trial and everything. And Monet ends up pulling a gun on him. And during this time, Tariq kind of has like a short monologue where he's like, I hurt everyone that cares about me, so you should probably do it. You should probably pull the trigger. I accept it, kind of thing. And then during this little monologue, we see flashbacks to Keisha, Tommy, Kanan, Raina, his mother, and his father. And when Tariq says something about his father, where I think what he said exactly was like, I hurt everyone who cares about me, and even my father, or something along those lines.
Yep.
And when he says that, Monet immediately asks him about that. She's like, what did you say about your father? So I wanted to ask you guys real quick before we move on to what happens after that. Do you think Monet figured out that Tariq might have killed his father because of that reaction, or what was it that made her question when he brought up his father? So what do you think, Rich?
Well, yeah, I'm pretty sure they've heard a lot of things about Tariq. When she did her initial research on Tariq, knew that there was a lot of things about him that just didn't quite add up. So I don't know if she knew at that moment in time that he actually did that to his father. I mean, it's hard for me to tell because I don't really know how much information she knows about Tariq specifically. Because I feel like if people know this information, then it should be more than enough to, you know, put him away, or go, put him in jail or whatever. But it feels like, she was trying to get a confession for him to say that. But obviously that didn't happen because of what happened immediately after that, which you'll get into in a little while.
Yeah.
But I just feel like this entire episode with Tariq, I really like that they threw in the flashbacks of all the times where he let down the people who they thought they could trust him. And then it came to this moment here once again with Ghost. So the people who are a fan of Amari Hardwick, they'll be happy to see him in this episode, even though it's a flashback. But yeah, my only guess is that she just didn't really. I don't know if she knows for sure that he did it, but she knows that he definitely had played a role in it. I don't know if she knows he actually pulled the trigger. But she was probably trying to get that information, and I would be very interested to see what happens in that next episode based off of that. But one little quick point that I want to make before you go to Dana, and we spoke about this very briefly before the show started. I find it very interesting how at the beginning of this episode, Tariq gets a message from 2-Bit. I want that 50K. I need it now. And then this whole episode, obviously he has to get money for all this other things, but by the end of, by the end of the episode, 2-Bit still has not been paid his money back. So I imagine that the next episode, while Tariq has to worry about what's going on with this trial, he definitely is in trouble with 2-Bit and still has unfinished business with Monet. So that is definitely going to happen in the finale. I feel like there's going to be another confrontation between him and 2-Bit, but I find it interesting how that was mentioned at the beginning of this episode, and then you didn't hear nothing else about it in this entire episode. So I assume all the money he made, he gave to Epiphany to have her leave. So he owes 2-Bit. And the other thing is, I'm assuming he made enough to also pay Sax as well. Not Sax, McLean as well, because he had to pay him too.
Yeah.
So I guess we can assume he had enough to pay McLean and to pay Epiphany, but he did not pay Monet and he did not pay 2-Bit. So there's going to definitely be some consequences for those two actions.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Those debts are definitely catching up to them. So.
Yeah.
But yeah. So Dana. Like, what would you think about that moment where Monet kind of catches him talking about his father and questions it, like, what did you say about your father? Like, do you feel like she knows that Tariq was involved in Ghost's death?
No, see, I don't know, to tell you the truth. I know that she knows who Ghost is, because you can't be in that same field and not know who Ghost is, since he was basically running everything.
Yep.
But I don't know if she knows that he killed him, because I feel that she would have used that information against him a while ago. I don't want to say she's stupid enough to not know who Tariq is, and I don't want to say she's stupid enough not to know who Ghost is. I just found that entire reaction to be overreaction. I don't know if that's in part of because of how it was written, or how Mary decided to just make that decision for herself as an actress. I do feel that this is something that's going to be used against Tariq, not now, but we do have a second season coming up. So in another season, it's going to go back and she's going to realize, I don't know what he was trying to say, or remember there's a trial that's coming up, and maybe that whole, we'll get to it later, but we know how this episode ends. So maybe she'll be able to put 2 and 2 together, and she'll know that kind of information and could use it in the other season. I just honestly don't know, but I do feel that, I don't know if it was even a choice of how it was written, because Mary has a tendency to overact sometimes.
You think she went off script?
I don't want to be critical of her or the show, but I do feel that there are moments where it can get emotional in dialogue, and that's not how it's intended to be.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, so what I took this as, and maybe some of the listeners might think we're looking into this too deep. I don't know, but um, I think like she kind of realized something about Tariq in that moment. I guess. So like because he was just saying that he hurts everyone that cares about him, even his father, and she has to know that like you said, she has to have heard about Jamie St. Patrick and his death, because that was well publicized as well.
Hmm.
So I feel like the fact that Tariq said those words as she held the gun up to him made her think, damn, like he might have had something to do with his father's death then. And I feel like that made her maybe respect Tariq even more because she's realizing who she's dealing with. She's like, wow, like this kid had the heart to get rid of his own father. So I'm thinking maybe this might make Monet even more in favor of Tariq. Um,
Uh-oh.
and of course, the more in favor of Tariq she gets, the more tension that causes with Kane. So, um, you know, that's kind of how I looked at it. But was you about to say something, Rich?
Yeah, I was just gonna say that that's a good theory. I don't know. Obviously, yeah, it definitely was a little bit of an overreact because the one time that Tariq came up short, and then that was it. It's like they still need Tariq to make money, but I guess now because they got this, they got to also do the cocaine thing. I guess maybe they aren't 100% reliable on what Tariq has going on with the pills, etc. But it just, I think it's a little bit of an overreact to try to understand. Now, Tariq obviously tried to cover himself. He said, "Yeah, I had to do something for my mom," which was accurate. He had to send away this Epiphany. So I mean, he tried to play on her emotions that way, as she is the mother herself also. But when it comes to business and money, and nobody, it's business. They have to stay strictly by business. So I understand why she pulled the gun on him. Whether or not she respects him later, that is a possibility. We'll have to see how that goes down. I think the fact that he was there to help out for what happened next, that has to play some type of factor into this also.
Oh
Um,
yeah,
I don't think for that reason. I don't think they are going to kill him or even attempt to kill him yet. But he has a lot going on now, and more so, I think that conversation was just so that this whole season has been about Tariq accepting the fact that he killed his father and being able to really prepare himself for what's going to happen in the next episode. So him having that confession, those having all those flashbacks of the people he hurt, all of that is playing into and eventually what's going to happen with him in the next episode. Um, so that's what it's all about right now.
yep. So yeah, let's get to what happened next because you just mentioned it. So um, obviously we mentioned it earlier, but there's that new character Rico, who is essentially the supplier of these drugs.
Hmm.
So he's scheduled to show up and I guess give Monet more of the product and everything. But instead, his car pulls up and among like a bunch of cars from his people, and Drew hears he sees the lights from the cars, and then he hears the cars pulling up, and he's like, yeah, Rico is here now. But then they don't hear any cars open and slam or nothing like that. So instantly, while Monet still has the gun up to Tariq, they realize something's not right. And I guess they got that those street instincts. They're street smart and everything. So like they know something ain't right. So Monet yells, everybody get down. Tariq pulls Diana down, to save her. And instantly the shots ring out through the bar, through the window and everything. And they're shooting up the whole club. And yeah, they must have had like the same weapon that Tommy used to kill Proctor or something, cause yeah, it gave me flashbacks to that. So yeah, they shoot up the bar, and everybody's on the floor, but Drew for some reason thinks I need to get the gun, I need to get a weapon at this exact moment. So he gets up and he gets caught with a bullet, and he goes down hard to the ground. Monet is obviously distressed. And yeah, the cars speed away, and at that very moment, Kane shows up. And Monet is obviously very upset that he's just shown up now, because she feels like he should be here doing this, because he's more street smart than all of the children. So she takes it out on Kane and tells him to pick up his brother, and they get him to the hospital as soon as possible to save his life. So then Tariq is later contacted by Paula, and this is because of Epiphany's no-show to the court. And there was obviously a big commotion at the trial, and Sachs, as we know, mentioned that he wanted to call Tariq to the stand as a witness. So Paula actually visits Tariq, and she tells him about the fact that Davis McLean and Sachs were working together, and she shows him the video of Tariq at the gravesite and everything, when he said I had to do it at his dad's grave and everything. So she basically makes Tariq aware of what's going on. And she says that she's no longer working with McLean, and she actually wants to bring him down, which is interesting. So we'll ask about that later. But yeah, so Tariq knows what's going on now. He's caught up, and so let me see what's next. Okay, yeah. So I guess we'll skip ahead to yeah. So he meets with Tamika later on. And then he exchanges money with her just so that he's legally binded by the lawyer confidentiality. She asks him outright, did you kill your father? Tariq finally admits to it, and he said it's not because he's a monster, it's because his father was. And he makes it clear that he doesn't want his mother to go to prison for something he did, and he says that he will confess on the stand to help her. So, and that's where the episode ends, obviously. But that's not the end of our questions. There's many things we got to ask still. But so I want to ask you guys like this. So this episode is obviously about Tariq being a monster. But after Tariq let Epiphany go, and also he saved Diana by pulling her down to the ground when the shots rang out. And he's also, making the decision to confess his crime. So I want to ask you guys, like, is he really a monster then? So that's the first question I have. So go ahead, Dana. What do you think? Is he really a monster after doing, all these good things in this episode?
No, and I think we already established that when he gave his answer in the classroom. Remember when he was asking the whole Frankenstein parallel and who is really the monster, and he was like, it's the guy who created him and how people view him. It's not exactly him. So that was just him calling back to that and saying that I'm not a monster. Everyone else around me, look at how they want me to be. I'm really the good guy here. And I think that we've seen that with his actions, and also the fact that he revealed to her that he killed her father. Monster wouldn't admit to that. I think he's genuinely heartbroken, and he's genuinely kind of regrets what happened, and he wants to take responsibility. And I don't even think that at this point it's because of Tasha. I think this is something he wants to do for himself and his own consciousness.
Great points. What about you, Rich? So
I don't think that Tariq is a monster. However, I do believe that he could become a monster, maybe on next week's episode. It's the once again the dynamic of he can go down either path he wants to go down. Now that he is going to testify, obviously he can talk more about going to Tamika's theory, that Ghost was a monster. He can use that to his advantage. But the thing is that after this trial stuff is over, he still has to deal with Monet. He has to deal with everything going on with 2-Bit as well. And I kind of feel like sooner or later, even though he is hesitant to kill anybody, if something happens and he feels threatened, or he thinks that his mom is going to be threatened, he may have to take some actions. But I think more so, especially for himself, not so much from his mom. But again, we have to see what happens in terms of this whole trial situation next week. Um, because the one thing that was alluded to when he had the conversation with Effie, she said he is a monster, and it's about him coming to the realization that he is a monster, which he hasn't really come to that realization quite yet. But I feel like because she said that, and because they have made it very clear this is the woman he needs to be with or should be with, eventually he's going to come to that. It's just a question of whether or not it's going to happen next week or next season. But I feel like the character right now is still just acting and doing stuff that he has to do to survive, which is something that, again, a bond that he has with Effie. They do what they need to do to survive. Now, how far you take that, that is left to be determined. But I don't think he's a monster at this current moment in time. But we'll see what happens, depending on how that trial ends and what happens next season.
Okay. Yeah, I pretty much agree with you guys on that. So that brings me to the next question. So do you think that Tariq has accepted the possibility of either dying or ending up in prison because of the regret he feels about what happened to Kanan, Raina, and his father? So I'll ask you first, Rich. What do you think? Like, do you think he's accepted these possibilities?
I think he has accepted it from the fact that he showed up to meet Monet and didn't have the money, and then he had that whole monologue where he was talking about he's hurt a lot of people. I think at that point he was ready to get killed. The way he was just so open and just saying all this other stuff, being in that situation, and the fact that Monet was ready to shoot him, I think he is ready to either be killed or arrested. We knew even from the beginning of the season when his mom was going down, he said he's ready to testify. He's ready to jump into this. So I feel like the character is definitely ready to do whatever he needs to do. What I thought would change is that from him having all of these life experiences with going to college and then being in all these different relationships with these women, I thought that was going to change him in the sense of, make him want to go in a different path completely. But the fact that he is still wrapped up in all this other stuff, it can go in any direction. But I do think he is willing to accept the responsibility now because there's no other option. You have to testify or something else happens with your mom. So I feel like now, in this moment of desperation, I think he would do whatever he needs to do to survive. So we'll see whether or not he gets selfish with his actions. But for right now, I think he's willing to go down if he needs to go down, because there is no other way that he can overcome any of this. So we'll see.
Okay, and great answer there, by the way. So Dana, what do you think of that? Do you think Tariq has accepted the possibility of dying or being locked up in prison?
I feel that when they shot up the place and he lived, it was kind of a come to Jesus moment where he feels. I don't necessarily think that he's okay with dying in the sense that he survived the shooting. I think that he is, because he survived the shooting, he wants to turn his life around and he is okay with going to jail and accepting whatever consequences are for the murder of his father and the fact that he wants to go on the stand.
Okay. So as a follow-up question then, based on these answers, I want to ask you guys, like, is he really going to confess, or do you think something could happen, in the next episode that will change his mind from going through with the confession? So what do you think, Dana?
This is when I turn into Richard and I'm like, Tommy's gonna appear and it's gonna change everything. I do feel that something is going to prevent him from testifying. Yeah, I think he really wants to tell the truth. I think that is his goal. I think he'll get there and, that's what he's going to do, but then something drastic is going to happen where it changes the course of the trial and maybe ends up in a mistrial.
Mm.
I think something sudden is going to happen. I don't know if that means Tommy is going to all of a sudden start appearing and he takes the stand instead. I don't know if Tasha just jumps up and was like, I did it. And then we never see her again. I don't know. But I don't feel that this is going to be something that is going to have a conclusion in the sense that, everything is resolved. I do feel that this will kind of be like a ghost situation. Remember, we were very adamant that Ghost was going to jail and that was it. We'll no longer see him and he'll operate from inside. And that didn't exactly happen. He got free. I do see that something is going to happen. Also, on top of that, we have the random appearance by that white guy who was in the jail that's always watching Tasha. So that somehow could come into play as well.
Okay. Yeah, there's a lot of different things that can come up to kind of sway things, I guess. But what do you think, Rich? Is he going to go through with this confession, or do you foresee something happening to change his mind, perhaps?
Well, something is definitely going to happen. Uh, I like what Dana mentioned about Tommy potentially showing up because, again, you go back to the start of this season. They mentioned Tommy entirely too much in saying that he's the one that killed Ghost, all this other stuff. So for the character to never show up, it doesn't feel as though that is something that would happen. It feels like the character can definitely show up at any time, and that would be a great way to end the season because it will provide more suspense for people wondering, well, what's going to happen next season. But I also feel like, let's say that he does confess and his mom does go free. I kind of feel like, well, now Tariq, something will happen with Tariq. He's not going to confess and then just get off scot-free. Some type of probation or something would have to happen because in the real world, if you confess to killing somebody, I still think that there's going to be some type of punishment that you have to face, whether it's probation or community service or whatever. So, but what I imagine could happen, in addition to what you said already, Gary, I do think this situation where Tariq could confess, and then Tasha is, she's free, she's set free or whatever, and then as Tasha is being freed, she is killed by somebody. Because the thing is this, Kanan still has beef with Tariq. I don't know how much he knows about his mom and all this other stuff. That's one person that I could definitely see going after Tasha and taking her out in an attempt to get to Tariq. The other thing is that you remember in the last episode that, basically Tasha had called up Lorenzo, and that Monet told her, you are never to call. She told Tariq, your mother should never call my husband ever again. Because Tasha didn't get the answers that she wanted out of Tariq in this episode, I could see her once again confronting Lorenzo and asking him about what's going on, and that could also be just as deadly. Because again, Tariq is, while I say Monet understands, she understands as a mother as well. I kind of feel like because the business deal was botched now and all this other stuff, it doesn't mean that all of a sudden she's cool with Tariq. Until we see that in the next episode, we have to assume they're still on bad terms with each other now because of that. So my assumption is that, though, even if this ends, what I'm basically saying is that whatever happens, it's not a happy ending for Tasha. I can see Tasha getting out free and then killed like almost instantly or right away, and that could be the type of event that turns Tariq into a monster, because all of this season he's been trying to do whatever he can to protect his mom, get her out of this situation. But if it was going to happen anyway, that can turn the character in a bad way, and then the character can just not care and just do whatever he needs to do, ruthless, all this other stuff. So it can go in any direction they want to take it. But I feel like whatever path they go, it's not going to end well for Tasha. Either she's going to be stuck in jail for a very long time, or she's going to get out and then get killed almost immediately after she gets out. Because I feel like that's the only path they can go. She's not going to get out and just all of a sudden become free. Now she could also turn on Tariq, as we alluded to before, but there's a lot of paths they can go with this. So I'm just curious to see how they go about it, because there's a lot of things to think about when putting this stuff together. And I'm going to assume that the writers are going to play back the stuff that has already happened in that dynamic, in that relationship between Tariq and Tasha, and have that come full circle, much like they did with bringing Tamika back into this case from the very beginning of the season. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, great points all around here, and I can't wait to see what some of the commenters think about that too. But before we wrap up, I do want to touch on Kane too, real quick. So, because a lot happened with him. So, after his new GTG underboss brings him a shipment of pills, Kane realizes that these pills are supposed to be Monet's shipment. So the GTG guy tells him that he got it right from the Connect, which is Rico, and told him that Rico is looking for a new distro. So Kane realizes what this means, and that Rico is probably looking to take out Monet. And then we see what happens later on. So let's skip ahead, because we just kind of talked through these scenes. So Kane shows up and helps his brother get to the hospital so they can save his life, and Monet is still actually angry at him, and they have a little tense argument outside the hospital and everything, where Monet is visibly upset. And I guess Kane is still kind of hurt that his mother won't accept him back, even after he showed up to help and everything. So Kane makes the decision to meet with Ramirez, the police officer that Monet is sleeping with, and he tells him that they need to get rid of Tariq ASAP. And Ramirez actually refuses, because now he feels like Monet needs him more than ever, because Drew is now injured. And Kane won't accept no for an answer, so he knocks down Ramirez, takes his gun, and shoots him after Ramirez tries to plead with him to not do it, to not go through with it. But he shoots him anyway, and that is that. So I definitely want to ask you first, Rich, because we've been foreshadowing this a little bit. So what do you think of Kane's actions here? And is there now anything stopping him going directly for Tariq now? So what do you think?
Well, I think that this is going to have grave consequences for the entire family. We know Ramirez is the one that was helping to protect the family, and that's what this is about. By him taking away him, you stop your mom from being able to rely on him and spend time with him, but you also hurt the family, and you now leave them exposed to whatever is going to happen with them. One thing that I did want to make mention of with Kane in this episode, that he is thirsty for power, and the fact that he recruited the GTG leader to his side. But the thing is that I find it interesting how he would not question whether or not this guy can turn on him, because he, earlier in this episode, he had a conversation with Drew, and he told him, yes, he's loyal, and I got him working for me now. Yes, because he is loyal. But yet, when he is the one that shows up to make sure that his family is taken care of, it's only him. It's not the GTG guy. So what's to say that this GTG leader didn't negotiate this thing with Rico the way it was, and set for them to take out the Tejadas as a result? That's the thing, that the character is so thirsty for power and control that he's going to make some mistakes. And I think his mistake was obviously keeping this guy on and still working with him, because if you can't trust him, there's no way that guy doesn't have some type of grudge with Kane for the fact that he killed his boys. So I kind of find it ridiculous that Kane does not. Obviously, Kane thinks he can handle him, he can control him, whatever, manipulate him. But that guy can just as easily, as you saw with this whole shipment thing, flip things on him. So hopefully this is a situation where the next episode, if we do find out that the GTG guy was working with Rico to try and set them up. I hope that Kane takes him out immediately. Um, but yeah, the decision to kill Ramirez was a bad decision, and it's going to have bad consequences on the entire family. It's not really just Monet; it's everybody. Everybody is a target now. And meanwhile, uh, obviously Kane did it because he's now cut off from the family. So to go back to the comment I made earlier about, Kane was already a bad kid, and now he's even more reckless because he feels as though his mom is not a part of his life. So to go back to what I said previously, if Tasha is killed, Tariq absolutely 100% can become the monster that he has been that Effie calls him, because then he will just want to go down a different path completely, and it's about getting revenge. And I do think that Kane plays a role in where eventually Tariq goes as a character, because no matter what he does, this is somebody he's going to have to deal with, because this is the guy that knocked him out of his own family. So it's going to be interesting to see where they go with that dynamic. Obviously, I don't want to see that confrontation yet. They need to save that for next season or whenever. They need to build it up over time. But it's definitely going to happen now, because they've set them on opposite paths against each other, and it's not going to end well, and there's going to be some casualties along the way. But it's definitely going to happen. Only a matter of time.
Yeah. Yep, interesting points there. And yeah, I agree with a lot of what you said. But what do you think about it, Dana? What do you think of Kane's actions in this episode? And is there like anything that's gonna stop him going head on for Tariq in the next episode? I guess.
I think this is exciting, and from a viewer and a writer standpoint, because this allows us to introduce us into more people in the story. We don't know how many people Monique's people crossed and how many people want revenge. I mean, we just focused on the GTG, but there's a lot of other people that you have to cross in order to get to where you're at now. And I feel that Monique's character is someone who could easily cross people. So now that Rico is dead, it opens them up to a lot of problems. I do feel that Tariq. Here's the weird thing. Remember when Kane was like, "Oh, you made me this way, Ma?"
Yeah.
When she was like, "I don't want to see you anymore." Um, I do feel that this kind of means that all bets are off, and that he may not care about Tariq anymore, because he'll feel that that's her problem, that's Monique's problem now, and it's not going to be on the forefront of his mind to go and kill Tariq. I do feel that there's going to be other people now that's going to come for them, and also it may be Kane as well. He knows everything that she knows. She taught him, and she said, "You made me this way." So I see him forging his own path, and in order to do that, he may end up crossing her. So this could be very exciting from a viewer and writer standpoint.
Oh yeah, for sure. Especially if they do what Rich said and build this up like over the course of like the next season or so. Like if they do it as like a long-term storyline, this could get really good. So let's hope they kind of take that path, because there's a lot of other things they can wrap up in the next episode without having to fully close this storyline. So hopefully they take that path. But I wanted to also ask you guys, what do you think about Drew getting shot, and how will Drew act whenever he wakes up? We don't know how long he's going to be out for, but what do you think his mindset will be when he does wake up? So go ahead, Rich.
Well, we know that Drew, and he may mention in this episode again, that he never really wanted to have control. He never really wanted it to take over. And that Monet is really pushing for him to do that, especially now that Kane is out of the picture. I feel like after what happened when he got shot, that is something where it can go in either one of two directions. Either he can decide to still be the same character that does not want to get involved, but he really wants to distance himself from all this stuff, or he can be the one to he going to really step up into that role and become a different person entirely. where he's a lot more ruthless and he will do whatever he needs to do to protect himself and his family. So they can really take that in any direction. I personally think that after what happened, though, no way the character comes back the exact same way because he almost get killed. And I thought he was going to be dead after I saw him get shot up. Now, one point I will mention, and this is, I don't really think this is a nitpick, so to speak. We've seen multiple times in movies that there's a drive-by. That's fine, whatever. I'm a little surprised that they would think that there would be no retaliation. Because if you know that you're going to kill someone, and if they knew that Kane was there, for example, do you think they still would have did a drive-by, or would they have did a drive-by and then they want to go inside, make sure everybody is killed and shoot everybody? That's the question that I asked, because Kane is a loose cannon, and to think that there's going to be no retaliation whatsoever, that goes to show you how ballsy a lot of these people are. The same way that Kane is ballsy to think that he can trust this GTG guy after killing his people. So that right there, obviously the next episode, my assumption is that Monet is going to get some payback on them for this. And obviously she's going to confront Lorenzo. By the way, I will also add that I find it to be ridiculous that Lorenzo doesn't have any other muscle that can help to, whenever things get real bad. Obviously, Ramirez was the officer to help on the police force, but I'm surprised he doesn't have additional gang members or whatever that could help them if the family is in need. It feels like they're on their own. So that is something that obviously we'll find out how deep their rivalries go, like Dana alluded to, after what happened in this episode. But I feel like right now, the Drew character, I'm not expecting the character to come back exactly the same way. Either the character's going to come back and just be a ruthless individual, or he's going to come back with some type of, where maybe he has some type of issue where he needs surgery and it's a lot more serious and it leads to a health issue. I don't know. But the character is not going to come back. I'm not expecting the character to come back exactly the same way he was before, since he did get shot. So, we'll see.
Yeah, I kind of think like this might be the thing that makes him finally say, I'm done with this life. I don't want nothing else to do with this anymore. And I'm gonna go find Everett. So that's probably gonna be his mindset. But what do you think, Dana? What do you think's next for Drew whenever he wakes up?
Drew, he was the one who was gay, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, I do feel that this is gonna be like, look, I already died. Let me live my true self, and whatever consequences may be that may happen, it's okay. I feel that. Also, I don't know if he'll want to keep being a part of that gang situation with the drugs and the dealing, because it could go that way, where he's like, I'm done with all this. I already risked my life. I'm tired. It's not worth it. And he's really young. Mm-hmm. Or it could be one of those situations where he tries to retaliate. But right now, I just kind of feel that he's not the person who wants to go and he's not Kane. So I do feel that he is going to try to just live his life how he wants to and go back with his boyfriend. He's going to meet a lot of anger from his mom, but that's just may end up what happens, I feel. And also another thing, what I don't like is when they do drive-bys, don't just hit the windows. You gotta hit, if the person falls down onto the ground, you gotta aim low too. Well, that would have been nice as well. Aim low.
Wow, yeah, I didn't know Dana was an expert in shooting and drive-by.
Look at how it's shot. I mean, they shot one person. That's great. But if you want to get everyone, people automatically drop. So you gotta aim low as well. Don't just aim for the windows.
So it sounds to me like these goaters, these shooters, they are the same type of shooter that Ghost is when he shot up Tommy's car last season, and I see someone in the car, I'm just shooting, but at least he just shot everything, to make sure the person is dead. So, but this is a different situation, obviously. But yeah, it's Yeah, we'll see what happens. But I think it's a little ridiculous for them to think that there won't be some retaliation now, and to not even check to make sure that they're actually dead. Come on, bro. We know there's going to be retaliation. It's pretty obvious, but it's a question of how it's going to be retaliation.
Yeah, that.
And it
Oh, good.
oh no, and obviously, I would imagine that we'll see if Kane decides to go after him, or if he just decides, well, I'm just going to mind my own business and let whatever happened to them happen. I mean, we'll see what happens. But yeah, there's going to be some retaliation. Everybody knows this. It's just a matter of how it's going to go down and how they're going to plan this.
Yeah, that like little things like that are a bit annoying because I understand that it's a TV thing, but yeah, like if they were serious about killing, Monet and her crew or her family, they like after shooting down the windows and everything, Rico would have been like, yo, two of you go in there, make sure they're dead,
Yep.
and then you send two men in there just to make sure everybody's down, and then if they need to finish the job, then they finish the job, and they got backup right outside if they need it. Like that's what I feel like that's what they would have done if this was real. But obviously it's TV, so these things happen. But it is what it is. So I have a few additional questions just because so many things happen in this episode, and of
Yeah.
course next week is the finale. These questions that I have, we can kind of get through them very quickly. I just give me like quick responses, and then we'll wrap it up. So
Okay.
first of all, I wanted to ask you guys what's next for Davis, McLean, and Sachs. So obviously they have a bit of a run in this episode, where especially where Epiphany is concerned, and Davis realizes that his career could be at risk after Epiphany doesn't show up, and then there's the picture that came out of him with Sachs visiting Epiphany, so that's very bad for his career and everything. So I want to ask you guys what you think it could be next for these two characters. So I'll start with you first, Dana. What do you think? You're muted.
I'm muted. I was kind of upset that the Super Friends are now over. It made me sad. It's so random. Yet it was so cute. Um, Again, I don't feel that there's a big deal. I hate to say this; it sounds wrong, but using the whole thing of cheating, I don't feel that it's a big deal where it's like a career ender.
Mm.
Unless he's sleeping with the actual witnesses, then I think it becomes something that's serious. But I don't see how, him sleeping with his coworker or just cheating in general, it's not going to have a big impact on his career. Maybe from just a moral standpoint of he doesn't want to lose his wife, that could affect him. Career wise, no. Um, So I think that McLean also just seems to be one of those people who's just shady overall, and so he'll say one thing and he'll claim that he's cleaning up his life, but he'll just go back to what he's doing later on. I don't see this being like a permanent change for him, but I do look forward to. I think that McLean and Sachs, the fact that they're going to now turn on each other, they know each other's kind of moves and their secrets, so it could get creative on what they do next. I do hope that it's not long because I don't want this trial thing to be extended. I want this story to wrap itself up. Um, and McLean can have little guest spots. That would be nice. But I think this is might be something that'll end soon. Hopefully, fingers crossed.
Okay, what about you, Rich?
I think both characters are going down now. Not now because this whole thing has been introduced about the investigator taking the photo with them both in that photo. Now I feel like whatever happens to Sachs, it can happen to McLean at any moment in time because they are tied together. That is evidence that they were working together on this case, what they are not supposed to do. So I feel like whatever happens, he's going down. Plus, again, the whole thing with Paula and how that situation went left, that's someone else that is now going against him. So it's not going to end well for McLean. So yes, bad news for him and Sax.
Mm. Yeah, and I'll just answer real quick too. I think if Sax doesn't end up dead like we all want secretly, um, I think he'll end up getting fired or something, and then maybe they'll write him out the show at that point, and maybe he'll make some cameos because he is related to Riley, and I feel like Riley has a future in the show. So maybe he'll still come around every now and then, but I feel like his story might be coming to an end somehow. I think one way or the other. But yeah, what was you gonna say?
I just want to make a real quick comment.
Mm-hmm.
I do believe that this next episode we're going to get an answer as to why was Sax there the night that James got shot, because that's the one thing that Tariq has on Sax.
Yeah.
That has not been explored yet for a reason. So I kind of feel like, to go to what you said maybe if he doesn't end up dead, he'll get fired. I think this guy could end up going to jail, and that I could see happening next week if it is that they take it to that extent. But either way, him and McLean, unfortunately, I like the McLean character, but that character, I feel like that now that character is going to have to go down too, unfortunately. But we'll see if they find a way to keep him around.
Yeah, so and yeah, I agree, like that could be the thing that gets Sax out of the way, I guess. The fact that he was there that night, and who knows, maybe Tariq will even see Sax in the courtroom and change his mind about the confession and say, nah, Sax did it, I saw him that night, so. So yeah, but as for McLean, I think he still kind of has a future in the show, and I don't know what capacity it's going to be. Like, maybe it will just be like a sort of like a either a Simon Stern or a Tate kind of involvement in the show, where they were kind of like, they started off as like background characters, right? During Jamie St. Patrick's story. So maybe he could have sort of like a role like that, where he's like a legal advisor or something like that. Maybe he'll even get in the good graces of Tariq again, and he'll be like a crooked lawyer for him or something like that, so who knows? But I feel like he has a future in the show, so I don't want him to really get fired, because I do kind of like the character a little bit.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's my answer. So let's continue with the questions. So what do you see next for Paula, and like how do you think she might try and stick it to McLean, because she seems pretty set on ruining his career. So what do you think, Rich? Any ideas?
I think you go into the fact that McLean always made mention of being a lawyer with an excellent record, never really lost any cases. So I think her sole purpose now is to make sure that he loses this case, and she can bring up perhaps evidence of him not being a good lawyer because he covered up another case that they had previously. I mean, but either way, she knows him more than anybody else. So I feel like she will find a way to expose that he's not as squeaky clean as he may appear to be. And that's what her sole purpose is now, because she doesn't want him to win the case, and she doesn't want anything to happen to Tariq or Tasha. So we'll see what happens. But she's definitely going against him now, and that's going to be a very interesting dynamic, since she knows him better than anyone else. So we'll see.
Okay, and how about you, Dana? Would you see next for Paula?
Yeah, I kind of have to agree. She's gonna involve herself somehow, and she may be determined to take him down. So this is not over.
Okay. And and also another character that I'm kind of questioning her future, and that's Epiphany. So do you guys think we'll see her again? I kind of hope so, because she is kind of pretty. I'm not gonna lie.
Oh, whoa! Uh-oh, wasn't expecting that one. Huh.
But what would you think, Rich? Will she be back?
Well, I know Tariq paid her to leave, but that's the thing about that situation, is that Tasha specifically told him to kill her. and he didn't do that. So that character could come back. I mean, I feel like at any point in time. I mean, her kid was not there at the time when Tariq went over there. So I would have to assume, as a viewer, she got her kid shortly thereafter they had that conversation, and she left town immediately. But again, I feel like she can come back if she wanted to later, or she could have just been used for the purpose of this episode. I'm not sure, but if I had to make a guess, my assumption is that they want you to keep guessing as to how they're going to play that. So I don't really know for sure, but I have to assume the character is gone for now.
Okay, and Dana?
Yeah, I kind of feel the character is not going to be killed off. I don't think the character's coming back. I think it was just one of those one-shot situations where, it was used as a device to show that Tariq is not a killer yet. And, he purposely did not kill her, not because she's going to come back, but because that is the path that he wants to take in his life. I don't think that we're going to see her again. She has a whole bag full of money and she's good.
Okay, fair enough. And the last question I have is, so, I mean, we kind of talked about, possibly some revenge, some get-backs happening, but do you guys think Rico is going to become a new reoccurring character in this series now? And I guess the reason I asked this is because, the original Power, we saw like several connects like just coming up and taking over, all the time kind of thing. So do you guys see this being like another direction where like a new connect shows up and starts causing, all this drama and everything? So what do you think, Rich?
I would hope so, because I like the actor that is playing Rico. I mean, I would assume that was Rico we saw in the car.
Yeah.
So I hope that character is returning, but obviously it really depends on what happens next week, because if there's some retaliation, normally you see they make it a quick point to take out the people who orchestrated the hit right away. So I'm hoping that he is still going to be around much longer than next week. But my assumption is that you're definitely going to see him again next week. So we'll see about that. But yeah, I hope he does remain, because like I said, that guy is a good actor. So I would like to see more of him on the actual show.
Yeah, I like that actor too, because he was there's this battle rap movie called Bodied, and he was in that. So I kind of enjoyed that because I love battle rap. So yeah, he's a cool actor. And I would like to see him, as a reoccurring character. But what about you, Dana? You think he's coming back? You think he's going to be a reoccurring character?
Yeah, I think so.
Cool.
Power likes their reoccurring people.
So you think he's going to be like the Lobos for season 2?
You laugh, but that may happen.
Okay.
Well, I will say this: if he is going to become a reoccurring character, it might be time for another character to get killed off.
Yeah, that's
I don't
true.
know which character, but I think you want to focus on this guy a little bit more. You might have to get rid of somebody else on the show.
Yeah, that is true, because otherwise there's going to be too many, dominant personalities. So, and you already have 2-Bit, you have Kane, you have Monet, you have Lorenzo, you're all these different, superior characters. So you got kind of make room for another connect, I guess. So yeah, those are all the questions I had, and I'd like to hear, you listeners chime in as well. And you can do that on the YouTube video, or you can visit thecoalition.com. That's coalition with a K. And you can find the article of this podcast on the site, and just drop your comments in there. And you can also email me at gary@thecoalition.com. If you have any thoughts or comments or voice clips that you want to send, definitely do that. We appreciate all the interaction with listeners of the show and feedback and everything. And yeah, so next week is the finale of this season, so we will be back to discuss that, of course. And then of course we will be recapping all of the future Power shows as well. So book 3, book 4, book 11, whatever they come out with, will be here. So
Book 11.
yeah. So there you go. And definitely make sure you check out thecoalition.com again, because we do have a lot of other content, from gaming to TV shows, interviews. We've got something for everyone. So definitely check that out. And I also want to wish everyone, a happy new year, because we will be in 2021 when we return. So I hope everyone has a great week, a great celebration, and just make sure you all stay safe, because it's rough out there. So stay safe, keep warm, call your family, all that stuff. So we'll see you next week. Peace out.